Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today we got a great issue for you guys. We are going to be doing an Omega, and that is where I journey through some of the books that I didn't get to from last week and my backlog books as well. We're going to be reviewing 10 in total. I'm actually pretty far ahead as far as books are for the upcoming issue that's going to be out this Saturday. And man, we are really getting down to like the nitty gritty and the hodgepodge of like just random books that I've accumulated over the years. But one book that I'm actually super excited to get to, and we'll talk about it on Saturday's issue, so there's a bit of a tease, but Helen of Windorn, which I believe was nominated for an Eisner, I believe won an Eisner. It's a Tom King joint, and I dove into that one yesterday, and I was like, oh man, I cannot wait to get through the rest of this, and I understand why this is award-winning and nominated and all that stuff, so that's a tease for what's coming for Saturday. But for today, let's just go ahead and jump right into it and talk about the books for this week's Omega. And as you can see here, I'll go ahead and flip to the main cam so you can see it. We got 10 books in total as per usual, so I'll go through these books and I'll just call it out for the audio folks so you know. Actually starting off with a pretty random one. It's called Kingdom Riders, and it's a trade, and the reason I'm starting with it for the audio folks, it's a much smaller book in like literal physical size, so it sits nicely on the stack that I have on top, and then I just pull one off the other and it looks nice as I transition. So we'll start off with that one only because it looks nice the way when it's stacked that way. And then we'll get into Void Rivals. This is going to be issue number 24. Then we'll go to Absolute Green Lantern number 8. And then that's it for the last week books. It's just those two. And then everything else is a backlog. So then we got Miles Morales, Spider-Man, number 37. Emma Frost, The White Queen, number 5. Battle Chasers, number 10. Batman and Robin, number 11. And then we have 3 different trades that we'll be pulling from today. So we have The Nice House on the Lake. That's going to be issue number 3. Superman, Volume 3, Multiplicity. This is a book from 2017, and I'll get to the whole backstory when we get to it, but yeah, it's a kind of a random one, so we'll be reading the first issue in that, and then Rare Flavours, issue number 5. So those will be the 10 books. We'll read them in those or in that order, I should say. We'll start off with Kingdom Riders. And this is an interesting trade because it's not based on like regular issues. And so when I was flipping through it and everything, it turns out that there's no, page break here for like individual issues because it's not an individual issue comic. It's a 208 page book. I, did the math on it. Let's say if it was a 32 page comic, it'd be 6.5 pages that you would have for 32 pages. I'm sure there's some other pages in there that, maybe additional art or anything towards the back. So basically, it's the equivalent to a 6-page trade. And I'm trying to think, like, why was I interested in this in the first place? And what I think actually happened is going into the shop, and this is during the phase where I just wanted to buy and collect anything that looked interesting, like just willing to take a risk on anything whatsoever. I saw this on the shelf and I was like, that seems interesting. I like the cover. And it's truly just, judging a book by its cover. And the reason I say that is because if you look on Leak, it's not even reviewed on Leak. This came out back in May of 2024, and here I am now, finally getting into it. So with that, let's just go ahead and get into the review. The way I'm going to review this one is similar to what I did for Battle Chasers and just talk through the pages that I read through. So I think I got to about a comic's worth. But before I start there, just a reminder in case you're brand new. If you are, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining. I do spoil the heck out of all of these books. So just bear that in mind. If you're not interested in spoilers in your podcast, then it's just not going to be the show for you. But for the folks that are, we'll talk through it. I'll show off some of the artwork. I'll give you my score. In this case, for Kingdom Riders, there's no score on League, but we'll talk about the score on League and kind of the comparisons there. And then for the other single issues, we'll talk about whether or not it'd be a good book to jump into at that point. Obviously, for this one, I'll just mention it's the start of this book and probably give my recommendation at the very end of reading it. So with that, Kingdom Riders itself. So this book here, I read again about comics worth of pages, and it's all about setting up this interesting world. So we have really a high fantasy setting that we have here. It looks like it was this kingdom that was completely, fragmented, a bunch of whole different leaders. It was unified in this big old war. Now they have one king that's like kind of in charge of it all, and from there it set up this feudalism type of system for all of its citizens. So we have two girls that we're introduced to. One who looks like she's about to pay off her debt and stop working on this farm, and the other one who seems like she's going to be our main protagonist. She has a bunch of powers and we don't really know why or how or what all is happening here, but the master that they work for is basically they keep talking about there's a race that's going to happen. So don't know what type of race that is going to be, whether it's people that ride on different animals or what have you, but there's just going to be this big race that's a big deal. It's the Super Bowl of whatever. And our main protagonist, she is tasked with getting some flowers for this big race. And so she goes off into the wilderness and she summons her pet toad. And this toad is like enormous. The size, not quite of like a kaiju, but bigger than a human, and certainly much, much larger than any ordinary toad would be. I'd say like maybe twice the size of a normal like grizzly bear, right? Like that's the size of this toad. And it seems like, they're best friends. She can communicate with it. And they're going off on this adventure. And they're going through the woods. They get to this area where there's a bunch of these ninjas that they bribe and pay off so they can pass freely. And they accept the bribe and they kind of let them go on their way. Then there's a section that has a whole bunch of these like undead ghosts that are there. And then they kind of like hop their way through. And they get through that pretty easily. And then they find themselves at this abandoned castle. And sure enough, they climb towards the top. They're able to find a couple of the flowers that she was looking for. They pick them, find some books there, reminisce about either it's some older times in history or it's just like a fantasy book. Nod off, sleep, and then basically wake up and look to, head on back. And that's all I got to thus far. So it's setting up an interesting world. A lot of emphasis on this race, and maybe she'll join it one day, but she can't because she's working for this master. But he gives her a bunch of leeway because she, I guess, has this powers that can find these flowers that also matter so much. It seems like a lot of different rituals like really matter here, as far as like, these flowers mean a lot, but they're very difficult to find. So that allows her like these, special privileges that maybe someone else doesn't get. Is she the only one that has these powers? We really don't know. It's still setting up the world. So I'm interested. The one piece of feedback as I start reading through it, and if you're like, oh, is this interesting or is it not? It is more of like a young adult, maybe even teenage level of reading, right? So as I'm going through it, I'm like, oh, this is extraordinarily simplistic at this point thus far. I don't know if it gets, more violent or over the top or whatever the case may be as you read on, but just as I'm going through it, I'm like, okay, maybe intended for a younger audience than myself, but we'll see. You just never really know. On the art side of things, let's go ahead and show that off here. So for Kingdom Riders, I'm enjoying it. It's a really nice art style that they have going here. I'd say very akin to like kind of, your standard Marvel or DC comic. I don't think there's any more detail than usual. I think the text is pretty standard of what you would see as well. You got a nice kind of view of this vista for this this castle that they go in to try to find the flowers. Nice wooded area that they have as they're trying to navigate their way to get to that castle in the first place. You can see kind of the art design too. It's more cartoony in nature. I'd say actually, if you're familiar with Avatar: The Last Airbender, more of that style of art and cartoon. So yeah, that's Kingdom Riders, the trade, if you will. I am enjoying it thus far. What I would have read thus far, I'd probably give it a 4 as we start things out. I don't feel like super fair of a rating right now, but based on what I read, that's where I put it at. So looking forward to more of that. Kingdom Riders, the first part. So from there, going to our next book here, which is going to be Void Rivals. Been loving this book. It's kind of like a brand new IP, but based in the Energon universe. So for this book, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this book is good. The way that I would describe this one is a big old wrap-up or synopsis of where things are at thus far in the story. So we cover a whole bunch of different subplots and like main plots, and it just kind of recaps everything that we're at. So I'd actually say for issue number 24, it's a really excellent point to go ahead and jump on in. I think from here you'll actually see that, get a sense of where the story is at and where it's headed. And I'd like to think this almost as maybe a wrap up of the previous arc, 24. If you think about it, split it into two, you got 12 and 12. This is probably going to start a new direction for our bunch of different characters here. So with that, I will say the biggest thing about Void Rivals is always, I got to pull up my notes here because there are just so many characters. I kind of get lost if I don't start like going like checklist by checklist here. But basically what we have going on is, the best way I can describe is a little bit of Romeo and Juliet. We got two faction civilizations. They live on opposite sides of this big old ring, and we have two champions basically from each side. They were basically raised that they hate one another. We got 24 issues worth of content that we basically gotten to the point where there was a mini kind of battle or war. There's this big prophecy that says these two civilizations cannot unite. If they do, both sides will fall apart. The leaders of both sides were secretly like in cahoots the whole time and like knew about this prophecy and were intentionally trying to spread this whole war. But our champions, Celia from the Zeratonian side and then Darroch from the Aragorian side, they met up and they were trying to basically unite folks because they actually think that unity would be good. Come to find out, unity is bad, but they actually found out the reason why in issue 23, as the two sides were joining together, it's creating some sort of, I guess, electrical magnetic type of field or whatever. And the planet that they're on, it's this big ring, and it's holding in this enormous thing, robot, mecha thing called Goliath. And as they were fighting and they were together, the portal or the hole or whatever started opening up, so Goliath started to come out. And that's when Celia in particular realized what was happening and then got everyone to retreat. The Zeratonians lost a bunch of their resources as they were the ones that attacked the Aragorians in the first place, and the Zeratonians are already kind of the weaker side of the two to start off. So that's the end of, like, there was this battle, the Aragorians held them off, the Zeratonians retreated, and here's like kind of the fallout of all of that. So that's your recap. What happens here in this issue? Celia was given basically like the blessing of their god, who is Zerda. And Zerda is actually just like a really ancient Cybertronian Autobot, whatever, that lives or is dead or is like half alive at the center of this ring. And Celia found her many issues ago, received this blessing, and can almost transport wherever she needs to go onto this ring, whether it be her homeland in Zeratonia, the Aragorians, like literally anywhere. And so she gets resummoned by Zerda, and it's like, what the hell did you do? I wanted this unity to happen. And Celia's like, you tricked us. You betrayed us. I know what you did. And this is her god. This is her literal god, is Zerda, who she's now like talking back to of like, what the hell? And Celia's like, you tricked us. If we were to unite, we would have all been obliterated because Goliath would have been here. And Zerda explains, well, I need Goliath to show up because there's way more at stake than just what's happening here, on this ring between you two civilizations. And you guys would have prospered, but yeah, like 90% of you would have been wiped out, is basically what she insinuates. And Celia's like, I'm not going to make that sacrifice. That's insane. There has to be some other way. And Zerda's pissed. So she removes her blessing from Celia so she can't transport anywhere. And she's put in jail in the center of the ring. So that's where she's at. The other piece is, again, this is the Energon universe. So back on Earth, you also have the G.I. Joe universe. That's that part of the Energon. So you have Transformers, G.I. Joe, and then this Void Rivals is like the new independent thing as well. So Cobra Commander sent out like an escort group. They are checking different planets and solar systems and galaxies or whatever to try to find more Energon. They land on a planet, they find an Autobot there, they tell them what they're going after, and then in this issue, Wheelie is the Autobot and basically explains the whole history of Cybertron to these Cobra Commander soldiers. That's another piece that happens. Then you got Skuxoid. So Skuxoid is like this weird alien clone that he finds out. And he thought he was all by himself out in the wild. Turns out, nope, he's one of a whole bunch of clones. So the mothership that had the clones brings him back. They want to chop him up into 6 different pieces and make additional clones because basically he's becoming sentient. He's an older one, or he could be the original, doesn't quite know. And he's about to be sliced and diced so they can make more. he's able to escape his restraints, and he basically starts a revolution to go after Skuxoid Alpha, which is what we think as the reader, the actual real beginning of this whole Skuxoid army. So a revolution is about to take place there. Then we got Darak. So Darak is Celia's counterpart of the Aragorian side, and he is like the prince. And they fought off the Zeratonians, and now Darak is actually starting to realize like he needs to take maybe his role more seriously as going to be the future leader of the Aragorians, whereas previously he kind of brushed it off, didn't want the responsibility, didn't really seem like, just seemed like a dude, right? He's a really good pilot, but didn't want to actually lead the empire or anything like that. But now he sees what's at stake. They had a great battle. Says like, okay, like maybe it is time that I become in charge. And so with that, then the actual leaders of the Zeratonians and the Aragorians, they meet up in secret, and they'll just like, teams each other. And basically the Aragorian guy is like, hey, I know what you tried to do, and that was screwed up. And the Zeratonian completely admits it. It's like, I misinterpreted the prophecy. I was thinking the entire time that we needed to be separate, but then I had a vision with Zerda, and she said we needed to unite. But his whole version of uniting was fighting. So it's like, okay, I understand that we were tricked. I'll take the L. And the Aragorian's like, that's fine. I think it's good that we still communicate, so that way we have this back channel open. And with that, the Zeratonian guy was like, you have a bunch of Energon there. Or, yeah, the Energon. Can you give some of that to us so that we can at least, try to scrape our way through? Because basically, the Aragorians are like Tokyo, Japan, and Zerda and like them, they're like the Midwest, right? Just like two totally different worlds as far as like trying to figure out technologically where things are at. And so the Aragorian leader is like, no, actually we took a lot of losses too. We can't provide any of the Energon, and he just lies, even though they have plenty. And then the last piece is that the Aragorian city was being repaired, but it got repaired extraordinarily quickly because they have so much Energon and they're like way more technologically advanced. There are actually two Autobots that were defending that they found. And the Autobots are like, wow, these guys are so advanced, like we barely even need to be here. And so the Aragorians were very nice to them. They gave them as much Energon as possible, and then they just took off. So they're no longer there, and they won't be there kind of moving forward. So, yeah, that's the recap on a whole bunch of different threads that are happening here. But, if you've been following along, for the most part, a lot of this makes sense. If you're reading along, you already know that. Is this a good time to jump in? Yes, on the recap, and I think 25 moving forward will actually be a really good spot. So, I've been loving Void Rivals. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. Excellent book. Let's go ahead and flip to some of the artwork here. I know I'm a little long-winded on this one, but there's a lot to just digest that you have in this particular book. So some of the artwork here, it is more dialogue forward, but like, look at this is pretty cool from the different space vistas. And here's some of the back and forth. And we have Skuxoid here starting his revolution, and Celia, who's now imprisoned as well. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff happening here. Darak looking to take more of his leadership role as well. So, and this is kind of the ring too that they're on. So you can see that there. Can you? Yes, without the glare. And then so you have the two different sides of it, and it looks like, there could be some other space entities that are heading towards them as well. Not entirely sure what these different ships are and who's heading towards them, but we'll have to see. So yeah, fun book. Enjoying it a lot. That's Void Rivals, issue number 24. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. Then we have Absolute Green Lantern. So this is the last of the books from last week. This one, I gave it a 4, and Lee gave it a 4.2. I'd definitely say between a 4.5, but I was more leaning towards 4 at the end of this one. Excellent book that we have here. We learn all about Sojourner's backstory, who is on the cover right here. She is our Green Lantern in the Absolute Universe. Quick reminder, Absolute Universe is kind of like the Bizarro universe. Everything's a little weird, a little wonky. We're on one side of the dark side, Omega Energy Explosion. Got the regular DC universe and then the Absolute. So we're in the Absolute. And with that, we learn Sojourner's entire journey up to this point. So she moved back to her hometown with her father after her father got divorced from her mother. She grows up to be a police officer. From there, she meets Montoya, and so it's also a female. So they start not quite dating, but like they basically have a moment where it seems like they might hook up, and then Sojourner realizes that she's bisexual, basically. But she's in a very like conservative small town, Midwest type deal, so like keeps that all secret. Comes to find out that the police chief is like extraordinarily corrupt and like taking bribes and like forcing people to pay money so that way they don't get fined, like straight up extortion type stuff. And so she leaves and she goes to Coast City. When she goes to Coast City, she runs into Cameron, who's her ex-wife. Cameron's also, she's female as well. So, lesbian couple together, but Cameron is like super wrapped up in her job, workaholic 100%, and just leaves Sojourner to be on her own. And then after multiple, missed dates, she's late, this, that, and the other, of Cameron getting all caught up in work, they get, Sojourner runs into Montoya, I should say. And so when Sojourner runs into Montoya, all the feelings kind of come rushing back, and then the fact that she actually is bisexual and she's like willing to go with it, she starts cheating on Cameron. So Cameron finally finds out, or Sojourner actually tells her, so then they get divorced. So all of that basically happens, which leads up to where we were presently, where we concluded in issue number 7, where Sojourner is now the Green Lantern. She shows up, and Cameron is like the head of like some sort of alien, she basically explained it's like the X-Files basically for the DC universe. And so she shows up there glowing green, and she's got Hal, I think, who's on her as well. And it's like, I need your help. And so from that point that we ended in issue 7, we get the full backstory, and then we fast forward right here, and Cameron, even though they're divorced from Sojourner cheating on her, is like, yeah, I'm here to help. And that's the cliffhanger. So pretty cool book. I liked the twists and turns that you had with Montoya. Then she meets Cameron. I didn't expect her to cheat. And then the one thing that they show in this, like this really cool thread throughout, is you see these 4 images here, right? So you see this from the black to the red to the green to the yellow, right? Showing basically, I think it's like anger, and then here's like maybe fear, and then from like sadness to like wisdom or something. Who if you know the Green Lantern lore and like you know which color coincides with each word, I apologize if I butchered all of it, but you can basically see it there. And so it repeats those particular threads throughout, and it'll be like a moment, right? When she notices the cop, then it'll go back to a particular moment. Doing all the corrupted stuff. When she notices, her feelings for Montoya, then it'll be a different thing. So it's the same exact panel repeated multiple times, and then boom, one part in the middle of the story, it'll actually be the part where it fits. It's actually kind of interesting how they do it. It's very artistically done. So it's like, okay, the divorce happened, and they talked about moving, and then there's this one part with it's a panel with her father of like showing restraint and wisdom, and so like multiple times throughout that, she'll stop, and then it'll be that panel. And then another part where her wife is like all pissed off and gives back the ring after the cheating and everything, and it had other parts where she was angry throughout that issue as well. It's really well done. So I think that's probably what pushed it up a little bit higher, and I could have been pushed up higher for me too, but I don't know, I was missing a little something to get it quite to a 4 or 5 in my opinion. But yeah, excellent book. More on the storytelling. Artwork is fine though, no issue there. But yeah, that's Absolute Green Lantern issue number 8, and totally fine to jump in at this point if you wanted to. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. Then we start up the backlogs here. So we have Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 37. So this is a start of a new arc, and I'll say with this Spider-Man as well, I'm already read issue number 38, so I kind of know where it's headed. So I hope that doesn't influence my review of this too much, but either way, I gave this one a 4. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And the book here, I just really enjoy it, and I feel like I maybe shouldn't be enjoying it as much as I do, but I do. I think it's a great book. The reason I say that is because it's a extraordinarily simplistic superhero arc and story, and it's like I've seen this, I've read this before I was into comics as a child. It's like such a classic trope that we have going here, but it's well done. So that's why I gave it a 4, and Lee gave it a 4 as well, and I know where it goes, and so I know kind of where it's all headed, and it's like so classic superhero. So anyways, brand new arc. This would be a great time to jump in. we're at the end of the God War stuff that you had with Ares and Anansi. We got 2 villain vigilantes. Miles is called by Misty Knight. Hey, we got to hear all these robberies that are happening and taking place. Please help out. So we have Inari and we have White Cat. White Cat is like Japanese, and she has like these 2 like wolf fox looking cat things with her. And then Inari, we find out basically his whole thing is he has like really good luck, and so they're trying to steal and rob as much as they can. So it becomes like an investigation thing with Miles and Misty. They find out where they're going to hit next. They go after them, and when they start fighting, they almost, like, Miles can tell it's like in a defensive form, like not actually an aggressor or someone who's out for blood, of like they're trying to escape and be defensive and just get where they need to be going. So they got the loot this time and they leave, and Miles and Misty aren't able to catch up to them in the end. So Misty's like, crap, like we're dealing with some professionals here. I can't believe like we underestimated them. We need to get some resources who can help us out, like a new recruit. And they end up getting Black Cat, who's going to be featured into issue number 38. So pretty cool. I like these 2 characters between Inari and White Cat. I like the banner back and forth between Miles and Misty. It's very Spider-Man with the quips, but it's well done. And it's not cheesy or corny or over the top. I mean, it's Spider-Man, so you know what you're getting into. But, you know, that being said, I thought it's just enjoyable. It's not overdone, not over the top. So let's flip to the artwork here. So we got, you know, kind of these foxes here as they're going to rob the joint here. And then this is White Cat, and this is Inari, and that huge wolf that they have in the background. So that was pretty cool. You know, Miles, before he gets his call from Misty, then they're into action. Here's where they run into them, and then the fighting kind of begins, and Miles is like fooled a couple times, and it's mostly because Inari has this good luck, so they're able to basically get away. And then at the very end here is where we have Black Cat as the recruit. So yeah, that's Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 37. Again, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well. Then our next one here is going to be Emma Frost, the White Queen, issue number 5. And this one, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.8. The reason I gave this one a 3.5, I think the biggest thing is I don't think I liked this particular part in how they wrote it. So we got Emma Frost, who's going after the Hellfire Club because she's been framed as being the mole that leaked information that allowed a mutant to get in. The X-Men then got in, destroyed this Hellfire Club in Buenos Aires. And so now she's trying to free herself and clear her name. And in the process of doing so, her assistant turns on to her, so she's out by herself. She tries to go to 2 different Hellfire Club managers, or the people that run those particular locales. They all betray her as well. She's nearly killed out in the Vegas desert by a bunch of like Sentinel scrap metal robots out there, but Mystique comes in for the save. Basically says that she hates the Hellfire Club as well. Sebastian, who's running the entire operation, is also selling to the side that's hurting mutants. So he's a mutant, but like he's just selling to the highest bidder, and that's hurting mutants as well. So Mystique's like, I'm going to help you as well. That's the end of issue 4. Issue 5 here. We're going to New York, the Hellfire Club in New York, which is the main one anyways, and they're going to vote on the new White Queen. Basically saying Emma Frost is out, and they need a new White Queen. I don't know necessarily what the position means, and it didn't really do a good job of explaining it, but I guess it is a position within the Hellfire Club. So they all meet up in the club, and they head downstairs to have their little secret inner circle meeting, and when they do, Emma Frost is already there. And not only that, Mystique was disguised as one of the guards, and now like takes everyone else out. So now they're like completely, it's like Tessa, it's Noor, who is the assistant to Emma, who betrayed her in the first place, but Sebastian Shaw is not there. He's like gonna telecommute in, and so now they're holding them hostage. Emma basically explains the whole story and like clears her name, and she's like, we're on to you. Basically it was Tessa and Sebastian who were the ones that told a newer recruit to go and let the X-Men or the mutant in, and that would then trigger the X-Men to come in. So she explains everything. And then on top of that, Noor actually turns out to be a double crosser. Noor is actually on the side of Emma Frost and says, yep, I know this whole thing as well. And it basically turns its whole head on its thing on its head of now they're targeting Tessa and then that newest recruit. Sebastian comes in through the TV and he's like, I'm glad that you found it. I'm glad that your name's cleared. But now it was Noor and Emma who were going to be in the running to be the White Queen. So you two now need to fight each other to the death. And I think that's the piece that I didn't like about it. I was like, I don't know if that really makes a lot of sense. Like, why? Like, Sebastian, you were kind of targeted as well. And so what, you're just going to throw out Tessa, but somehow you have the power and the influence that we're all not turning and facing you? And then why would these two agree to fight each other to the death when Noor just said that she's actually on the side of Emma? But they go with it, and they start like this exhibition fight where they're fighting in each other's heads. They're both telepath and psychic, so they're fighting back and forth in their minds. And it gets to the point, of course, where Emma wins. So she beats Noor, but the way that she does it is she then plants a seed into everyone else's mind that Emma won, and then on top of that, that Noor never existed. So she doesn't actually kill Noor. She basically is just like, okay, here's how it's going to happen. Nor you're going to go off into the night and pretend like you don't exist and have planted something in their head that they'll never even know you existed in the first place. So that happens, that works, and that's totally fine. And that's basically the way that it ends. Then the final piece is it's revealed that Tessa is actually part of the X-Men. She's one of Xavier's proteges, and she's actually Sage. And so now she's just been undercover this whole time. She's been outed as like the mole, but she's still part of the Hellfire Club, just maybe not part of the inner circle. And so she'll just kind of remain there and continue to be the mole that actually is working for the X-Men. And that's it. That's the conclusion. That's number 5 is the last issue of the book, so not really the time to jump in. Do I recommend it overall? I don't know if this one really nailed it in the end. The first 4 issues I did like, more so than League liked as well. So kind of keep that in mind. I like this one because I don't know much about Emma Frost, and I wanted to learn more. And I feel like I did, but at the same time, it's not a must read. You don't absolutely have to go out there to read it. I think it'd be totally fine if you skipped it as well. But of the other kind of, side plot miniseries X-Men, I think it is one of the better ones in my personal opinion. So that's Emma Frost, The White Queen, issue number 5. Let's go ahead and show you some of the artwork here. I think the best part of the artwork, so here's Mystique, of course, disguised as that guard. Noor facing off against Tessa. And then Sebastian's like, great, you guys found out who the mole is, but you two need to fight to the death. So they have like this dragon and knight fight in their minds, and it's to the point where Emma wins, but she then plants the whole seed in everyone else's mind, and they're basically none the wiser. So Emma Frost regains, and then at the end is where we have that Tessa is actually working with Charles Xavier. So that's Emma Frost, White Queen, issue number 5. I gave it a 4. Oh, sorry, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.8. I'm just so used to saying 4. That is like the baseline. Review. So, next one here is going to be Battle Chasers, issue number 10. So we're done with that big anthology. This is the first single issue that we have here. Battle Chasers, issue number 10. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. Lee definitely much higher on it than I was. I thought it was like dead center 4. And I think the biggest thing for me is it's a continuation from not issue 9, but a continuation from the story of what happened with Garrison and Red Monica. But it feels like they intentionally toned down Red Monica from what she used to be. Like, it was like crazy levels of cleavage that you would see in her, like to the point where it just didn't make any sense. And in this one, it's like, all right, it's 2024 or 3 or what is 2023. We gotta tone this way back for a modern audience and can't make this like as Gooner could be for this particular character. And so for that, I was like, from an authenticity standpoint, you had to pull it back. And this is Image. Like, you can do whatever you want for Image. So it's kind of funny that they clearly toned her back pretty significantly. So that was one piece of criticism. I was like, if you're going to be authentic, just like go ahead and go all for it. But the other thing with issue number 10 is it's only like 2 things that happen. And this book is a very, very fast-paced book. At least the first anthology was. This is much slower in pace. So I was like, oh, okay, they changed this up quite a bit from what it was previously. So that's the only thing. Now, the story is a direct continuation of exactly what we had here. So Red Monica is being pursued by the Crown for basically not turning in herself and not turning in like a different villain. And the reason that she didn't, obviously turn in herself, she's a thief, but she let out a criminal, but in breaking them out of prison, she also broke out a whole bunch of other criminals, which is creating a whole bunch of havoc throughout the different territories. So this king is just king of one territory, but there are other territories, and they're pressuring him like, you got to capture her, we got to bring her to justice. So she is like nearly down and out. They're at Garrison's house now trying to heal up, and the crown has sent out these paladins to attack. And you have Garrison who's there, and just Red Monica. It's just those two and one of Red Monica's assistants. Goes out, tries to spy, sees these different paladins, gets killed pretty instantly. So it's like, damn, these guys are super dangerous. And Red Monica's still hurt, and Garrison tries to defend and hide as much as they can. They realize that the firepower is way too much, so they just abandon the house. So they abandon, and they head out into the trees, into the forest. That's Garrison's house. Garrison, his whole thing is that his wife died. We don't know how or what all happened. It's still kind of mysterious. But now he had a whole bunch of her stuff that was in there. It's all burned to the ground now. All for Monica is what he's doing this for, which is kind of crazy. So Garrison's like, it is what it is. Heal up and then just go. So that's one part of the story. The other part of the story is we have Gully. So Gully is the daughter of this crazy warrior hero, Amorous. And Amorous had these powerful gauntlets. Gully found them, and now she is in the kingdom. And there was this guy, Sebastian, who claimed that he is also the son of Amorous. He was a son from out of wedlock, I think that's what they call it, right? So he's a bastard, basically, and Amorous wanted nothing to do with him. But he claims to actually be his father, and he thinks that he deserves those gauntlets. He tried to put them on. They burned through his hands, so he has literally no hands right now. And he's in jail for basically the claims, and he looked like he was trying to be evil. So Gully goes down and sees him in the stockade and has pity on him. But Sebastian is playing these tricks on Gully of now you're here, you're the daughter of Amorous, I'm the son of Amorous, we're supposed to be super powerful. Where are the gauntlets now? She doesn't have her on them, or have them on her. They're locked up. And they're the king has them. So the king's actually in control. Those are yours. Those shouldn't be his. They're really ours. We should have them. And so Gully just starts thinking about it. And then she starts getting maybe a little bit corrupt and starts to think oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. I'm being controlled. And so she demands the gauntlets. And then she has not a right-hand man, but her sidekick is Calibretto, which is this big golem war golem is what he is, but a war robot, but more of a sentient stone kind of creature. And these golems were made in the past as to be just war machines, and the race is extinct except for Calibretto, and he's more of a docile one. Think of the Iron Giant, basically. And so he is extraordinarily protective of Gully. So Gully gets all pissed off and mad at these guards that won't let her have her gauntlet. And so then, fighting starts, and then Calibretto just basically loses it, becomes the Iron Giant when he loses it as well. And so that fighting is on as well. So those are the two main plot points. I mean, usually in the span of one book is a whole bunch of shit happens, and it's just two things that didn't quite advance as much. So that's a big piece of it. And then the toning down of Red Monica, come on, be authentic. Other than that, though, the art itself is actually still just as good and reminiscent of previously. Is it the time to jump in? Yeah, if you find issue number 10, absolutely. Because this front page here tells you every single thing that you need to know that happened in issues 1 through 9. And then you also have the character sheet as well here that tells you everything about these characters, too. So, no issue there. But with that, the art just still as good as it was previously. Again, this is the same artist that did the video games of Darksiders, so if you know that art style, very similar, but the saturation and detail here is awesome. And the other thing, this kind of reminds me of the Tom Hardy book as well. I can see... Oh, Arcbound, that's what it's called. I was I can see the title, but I can't say the name. What the heck is it? Arcbound. So that's a pretty cool splash here of them trying to get away. As they barely do. But yeah, Battle Chasers, only 2 more books left. That's all we got, and then we're completely done. So after they did that first run of 1 through 9, it was decades, literally, later, and then came out with 10, 11, and 12. So I don't know if anything else is going to happen from here. I should probably do some research and let you guys know. But until then, Battle Chasers number 10. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. And then next is Batman and Robin issue number 11. I keep wanting to go to the keyboard for some reason. You'd think I would have built the muscle memory back up for being on camera, but not quite yet. So yeah, Batman and Robin issue number 11. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Great one to jump into, but again, this book came out quite a while ago, July 10th, 2024. But we have a new arc that's taking place here. Batman and Robin are going off to this dinosaur island because Bane is there and they got some trouble. So there they run into Maya, who's also like this trained assassin. I think she might have been trained by Raja Ghul and Talia and like that whole crew as well. Bane is basically on this island, but he's not like really attacking the dinosaurs per se. He's more attacking like these different scientists groups that keep showing up. And so when he's doing that, obviously, Batman and Robin are like, what the heck? We got like a distress call from Maya of like, what exactly is happening? And so they see the attack and like, of course, they can't let innocent people get hurt. But Robin in particular just loses it. And we don't know why it happens in issue 11. Start to learn about it more in issue 12, which I actually did read. And that's preview and kind of a spoiler. Very good book. But in this one, he just loses it towards the end and just starts sprinting after Bane. And so Bane's not even attacking the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs are just more like set dressing, if anything, just attacking the people. And Robin just goes full speed. And Batman's like, oh crap, we gotta stop Robin. And Maya's like, well, why? Like, why would we stop him? It's like, because I think he's losing control. And we don't know the reason why, but you will learn. And then as they go running down this vista, trying to catch up to Robin, they're both attacked, and they're attacked by the daughter of Bane, who's also there as well to fight them off. So that's the cliffhanger. It's a pretty cool book. I am enjoying the new setting, and I know what happens in 12, so I'm like, this is awesome. And it is awesome, but this is a really nice setup. So 11 is a great place to jump into. When we get to 12 for the next issue, it's not so much, but yeah, pretty cool spot, pretty cool book. It's Batman and Robin issue number 11. Show off some of the artwork here. I think the artwork is pretty awesome. Look at him flying on this gigantic Goliath bat as they're heading in. That was featured in issue number 10 with the crash landing. And then here's where they meet up with Maya, who's like, yeah, we got Bane here and we gotta have to stop him. Like, there's this crazy experimentation. And there's Bane, who's fighting off most of the people, but not so much the whatchamacallit, the dinosaurs. And well, you actually have a view of it here. I didn't even catch this when I was reading it initially. So you actually see like a flashback to when Bane snapped the neck of Alfred. So that is in this book. I didn't even realize that happened. I didn't know who this was. I think I should have realized that. But now it's very, very clear in issue number 12. But here it is in issue 11 anyways. All right, so there you go. That's the big thing. So that's what pisses him off. And now Batman's like, oh, crap, dude. Like, Robin is going to kill Bane. So we got to stop him because he's basically going insane. And then here at the end is where you see Bane's daughter, who is there as well. So, yeah, awesome book. Awesome, awesome book. I'm loving Batman and Robin. I think this one takes maybe a little bit of a step back as far as the art doing the anime thing, but it's still well done. It had more of a Eastern influence. Now it feels like it's more of like just kind of your traditional Western DC Marvel type of comic. So yeah, Batman and Robin issue number 11. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Then we get into our trades here. So this is Nice House on the Lake. This is going to be issue number 3 that we were reviewing. And this is the crazy book that we have from James Tynion, the fourth, where have this whole world that is completely destroyed by this guy Walter and whatever his kind of people are, whether they're aliens or what have you, is kind of going on here. So I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 4.5. I don't think it was quite a 4.5 for me, so I'm actually surprised by that, but I can imagine just the shock value of this book kind of overall is insane. So we got Walter invites all of his friends, high school, college, and then like recent grads. Hey, come check out this lake house. I want you all together. We're going to have this big old party, celebration, whatever. So they decide to come, and on the day 1, something happens in the world. It's like all live on Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. The world is ending. And people's faces are like literally melting off, and it's like in the span of like an hour or two, everyone has died. Like everyone, except for the people in this lighthouse, or in this house that's on this lake. And one of the friends, it's like maybe 12 of them, goes and attacks Walter. Walter slices off their hands, basically. So everyone's like freaking out. It's like, what the hell is going on? We're like held hostage here. Everyone that we love is gone. And we're here in this like beautiful, serene house, supposedly with a friend that now we're realizing is like some sort of alien thing, right? So it's insane. That all being said, now the group's going to have to come to grips of like, what do we do now? So some are freaking out, panicking. They realize that they touch these different totems, they actually can get a vision of back home, and they see just the devastation of back home and just bodies all over the place, and like it's insanity, right? And at the premise, some of them are just like, well, whatever, it's the end of the world, like let's just party and make the best of it. Others are just like actually just getting hammered. Others are trying to find like, how can we escape, but there's some sort of force field. It's like kind of a cluster in these early goings. Walter reaches out to one couple and is like, hey, you guys seem to have your shit together about this a little better. Just like try to get them not to freak out, otherwise this could go really badly really quickly, like insinuating that everyone's going to die. So they're like, yeah, maybe best that we do that. So that was most of issue 2. Issue 3 is a different friend, and it seems like each book is going to be the backstory of a different friend as we advance in the timeline. And so this friend was a friend from high school, and it gets revealed to us how controlling Walter was. So back then, he'd want everything to be like perfect, and like you can almost now see then what he was doing was like almost like grooming or like setting them up as his pets of like how he wanted them to behave and how they should act. And so he would call, like if anyone was upset with one another, he's like, we have to make this up immediately, like you have to talk to them, you have to address it. Same thing happened with college, is like you need to do this, you need to do that, like just like being a controlling almost like parent. And then there's like, well, that's just Walter, that's just how he is, he cares a lot. But now you start to see like, oh no, he was like grooming them, like think about your pet and like telling them to sit, and it's like, oh good boy and stuff like that. Is like kind of what Walter was doing. It's like, holy shit. It's like, how deep does this go? And so this guy in particular, he goes checking out the premises, and he goes on a hike, and he sees a whole bunch of these statues like I mentioned before, and it's basically these symbols that you have up top here. Each one of them, we're starting to realize, represents a different person that's featured in the book. And like each one of them has like a quirky little name, like the doctor, the painter, the journalist, the whatever, so on and so, the athlete. And so this one, I can't remember who it was, but he's going hiking and he's checking this out. I think he might have been a writer. And he gets to this point where it's like this nice little like plateau, almost like meditation area, and he's checking it out and he's feeling these rocks and stuff, and then he's like, is there like some sort of puzzle that I could figure out here? And he starts like scribbling down on a notepad, but he can't figure it out, and he leaves. And as he leaves, there's someone else on the other side of like this mirror, like trying to reach out to him. It's tough to tell from the art. I don't know if it's Walter or not, or if it's someone else, but they're like screaming out to him, and he can't hear him, and he walks back, and that's like the end of the issue. So it's just more of like, what the hell is actually going on here? Which is, I think, for me, why I didn't give it a 4.5. It didn't quite advance the story enough for me to be like, yeah, this was freaking awesome. It's still like, the hell is going on, So with that, let's flip to the artwork here. The art is pretty cool. It's like this crazy dystopian looking style of art. I think this is the start of this issue here. Yeah. So here's an example of like Walter calling him on the phone back when they were younger, of like, hey, you got to do this thing. This is him trying to convince him to come to the house. Look at that splash page. How dope is that, huh? And so, yeah, there's just like on this gorgeous house, but like all this craziness is happening out there, and none of them really know how to cope and how to handle this. It's like, what would you do? Here's this force field, and he's going to go out exploring more. Here's where he sees like these different symbols, and he just starts like taking the notes, and he sees more and more and more of them. And then here is where he gets to like that mirror, and he's like, is this some sort of puzzle thing, and trying to figure it all out, but he just couldn't figure it out. And then towards the end is where you have like he's pushing on that mirror, and then someone's on the other side like trying to speak to him. And so I'm like, is it Walter, is it not? I can't quite tell. It looks like it's Walter, right? And so maybe he's just staring and just observing all of this taking place here. So Yeah. It's just freaky. And I'm liking it. And James Tynion, dude, like, that man can write a nightmare. That's for sure. So is it the time to jump in? I mean, it's the trade. So just get the trade at this point. This all came out back in 2021. So yeah, just start with the trade volume 1. Definitely worth the read in my opinion. I can already tell you can go ahead and buy that and you'll be good. So next we have Superman. So this is the annual from 2016. So this book came out 2017. This is the annual November of 2016. So you're like, Dylan, why the hell are you reading this book right now? Why do you have it? I'm not even that big of a Superman fan. Well, the reason is my family, like the in-laws in particular, they do this white elephant on Christmas Eve. And again, this is 2024. So deep into just like, oh, buy a whole bunch of different books. And I was like, how cutesy would it be? It's within budget. Go to the comic book store, just pick out some random trade that, you know, in case someone who doesn't like comics or whatever picks it out, they read it, they're going to like it. Superman, as safe can be. Something they would never get for themselves. I'm supporting local, I'm supporting my shop, yada yada. I thought it was perfect. So we all start doing the white elephant stuff. Everyone starts picking their gifts. And then, you know, at the end, like, you can kind of steal or whatever. So then everyone started stealing their own gifts. And secretly, I was like, I kind of want to keep this. And I didn't get to the point where I was able to read it before I wrapped it up. So I just stole back my own gift. And that's why I have this random ass Superman Multiplicity Volume 3 from 2017 that I'm reading through right now. Which is insane, right? It's like an 8-year-old book, but here we are. I started reading through it. It's 5 books in total that we have in the volume. The first issue is the annual. Then you have the arc of multiplicity, whatever that is, and then the start of another arc. So those are going to be the 5 issues. So the annual was actually a perfect place to start because, as you know, the annual is just a random-ass book that takes place, has really nothing to do with the plot, and you're just reading it, and it's good to just get a sense of, oh, here's the art style. And I say that, it's like it could be featuring different artists. It can be featuring a different writer who does the annual because it's just such a random thing. But it's just hopping in and like a one-shot, if you will. So I'm reading through it. It's pretty good. This book, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. So I enjoyed the annual a lot. So we got Superman. There's all this drought that seems uncharacteristic from where he's at. I don't think he's in Smallville. I think he's actually in a different town. Hold on one sec. Just need a quick drink of tea. Voice is getting raspy and throat is getting dry. So yeah, it's getting like unusually dry. And so Superman just follows the dry bed of creek of where it is, and he runs into Swamp Thing. And he's like, uh-oh, this seems like it's going to be a problem. And Swamp Thing says, Superman, it's actually you. For whatever reason, you are a clone, or it's rebirth is what it is. So you died and you came back. This version of you, this body, is absorbing too much energy from the sun, and that's what's causing the drought all around. So with that, Superman's okay, we'll go ahead and we'll figure this out. And then Superman touches Swamp Thing, and when he does, Swamp Thing like goes crazy and like reacts to the just being touched basically by Superman, and he goes like insane, and he starts like attacking, and Superman's like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. So he grabs him and he like forces him down into the dirt, like towards the center of the earth, and it's like, take hold, Swamp Thing, like, focus on your power and your energy, and then expel whatever the hell is going on, whatever sort of possession. And so that's what happens, and he does, and Swamp Thing's able to expel what happened. And so then Swamp Thing turns to Superman and is like, okay, I need to figure out what the hell's going on with you, because it's definitely you since you touched me and that's what happened. So I need to fuse with you. And Superman's like, no, you're not going to do that. Let's talk this out. And so Swamp Thing's like, no, you don't understand. I need to do this. So he starts like vining him to the ground. Superman starts like fighting him off, and like he thinks it's more of an aggressive thing than like a play thing. And then Swamp Thing's like, fine, if you won't let me fuse with you, I need to literally consume you. And so he grows to like this mountain size and devours Superman. And when he does, from there, he can see what the issue is. And basically what it is, of course, it's all touchy-feely, as it is with Superman. He's not from Earth, obviously. And he's like, hey, you're still thinking about being a Kryptonian, right? Being from Krypton, and you're still not thinking of this as your home. And so the Earth is treating you like a virus or some bacteria, and it's releasing these antibodies that is causing the ecosystem to be all effed up. Bottom line is you need to forget Krypton and accept the Earth as your home. And so Superman's like, okay, I'll try to do that. And so that's what he tries to do. Swamp Thing's able to calm it down. He's like, it's not perfect, but at least now you see the water starts to return. Ecosystem's back together. You should be good to go to now. Clark leaves. Ecosystem restored. We're good to go. We're on to the next thing. So that's the story. It was cool. Very nice, compact. Artwork was excellent on this one. Let's go ahead and flip into that one. Super simplistic little superhero story that you got going on there, but I thought it was pretty cool. Like, look at this. This is 2017, folks. Artwork is dope. Great saturation levels that you have here. Awesome detail. Cool fight scene. I like the dialogue. It was a win-win-win. Superman can be boring as hell, but this, to me, was pretty interesting. So I enjoyed it. So, yeah, if you can find a random version of Superman from the DC Universe Rebirth, Volume 3 Multiplicity from 2017, it's IGN rated. That's how you know. Yeah, it's a cool book. So from that random-ass book to Rare Flavors. So issue number 5 for Rare Flavors. We got one more after this. And I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.5 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
I'll say they could have ended it right here. Rom V, that is. And it would have been totally fine. So we got Ruben. He's a demon. He's been eating people, and he's a cannibal. And he's trying to share a story with the world. He recruits a documentary videographer, Mo. And the whole thing is like they'll go to a different town or go to like a different area. They'll have a dish, and then Ruben would like eat whoever prepared this meal for them. So kind of insane. Mo finds out. Well, first Ruben admits it. Mo doesn't believe it. Then Mo actually sees him eating someone in the middle of it. There are these two brothers that are going after Ruben because they're trying to slay this demon. And Mo actually saves him. And when he saves him, Ruben explains his whole backstory of he's this demon. He's been all these years, he's been persecuted. Finally, he found some peace. There's a guy from a random town that gave him food. After he died, he went to go into the town. He found Monsi, who he's been writing to throughout this whole story. And he worked with Monsi for many, many years, and now he needs to tell his story. But as he's telling his story, he's been eating people. So in this one, Ruben's gone, and Mo is now caught up with the two brothers, and we learn the full story of the two brothers. So Mo was trying to, I think he decided that he was going to leave, but then decides that he's actually going to come back, or they went their separate ways and they were supposed to meet up for something, and the brothers caught up with Mo before he could get to Ruben. And so now they're like, Mo, you got to take us to Ruben now, basically. I don't know if, I can't remember if they threatened him or they said something that was going to happen to him. So Mo's like, fine, I'll take you to him. And they start telling their story. So they're two adopted boys, different mothers and things, but orphans. And they were taken in by this really old guy who turned out to be an exterminator of sorts. But it wasn't just for extermination of, kind of your standard animals, but it was like demons as well, too. So he's dying. And when he dies, he says his dying wish to the boys and tells this whole story of his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. And he talks about his grandfather who tried to stop and explains the whole story of Ruben and was killed by Ruben and then devoured by Ruben. So it was like, oh, shit. Kind of the white whale, need to do it for their dying father. So when we get that story, Ruben kind of realizes, you know what, Mo's late. I bet the brothers caught up with him. I'm out of here. So he decides to leave, pack it all in. He leaves a note for Ruben and for the brothers that he's calling it. He's not doing the documentary anymore. And he decides that he's going to head back to the original cafe where Monsi is. He meets Monsi when we finally meet her, who's been writing literally every single issue. And it looks like he's going to put that whole life away of, being a cannibal or eating humans and just go back to working in the shop again. So that's the book. It's nice. It's really pleasant. They could have ended there and it would have been fine. But now I imagine the brothers are going to show up in Monty's place. It's going to be a whole thing. We'll have to see how it goes. So it's a pretty cool book. Enjoying Rare Flavors. Definitely worth jumping into. Let's go ahead and look at some of the artwork here. It's still like a really nice continuation of what it was previously. So if you're on the audio, it's like almost like not Picasso-y, but like everything is like maybe a little trippy and a little hippy dippy. Like here's a perfect example right here. But then they weave in these different recipes as they're talking through the story, which is so cool. I love it. It's just an awesome, interesting, independent take on a comic, and it's just really well done overall. So yeah, Rare Flavors issue number 5. I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.5 as well. So with that is the conclusion of this issue. Let's go ahead and just recap everything for you guys so you have it. These were the 10 books in this order. So we had Kingdom Riders. This is kind of the start of a new trade that I'm diving into, learning about this girl and her powers and what all is happening in this universe. Void Rivals issue number 24. Just kind of a nice recap of where things are at right now, and we'll see where they go from there. Absolute Green Lantern issue number 8. We get Sojourner's backstory and everything that's happening with her. Miles Morales issue number 37. The start of a new arc where we have both White Cat and Inari, and then Black Cat is recruited to help. Emma Frost, the White Queen, issue number 5. So this is going to be the conclusion to this one. She restores herself as the White Queen, and now we'll see what kind of shenanigans she gets into after that. Battle Chasers, issue number 10, the first one that comes back in a decade plus. And so now we have Red Monica trying to figure out her next steps, and then Gully and Calibretto trying to get back the gauntlets. Batman and Robin issue number 11. We're on Dinosaur Island. Robin's going after Bane for what he did to Alfred. The Nice House on the Lake issue number 3. We learn one of Walter's friends who's trying to figure out a way to escape, trying to figure out and understand these different puzzles and statues. Superman volume number 3, Multiplicity. This is the 2016 annual with Superman and Swamp Thing trying to help him forget his time on Krypton and accept being a human, or being from Earth, I should say. And then Rare Flavors, issue number 5. So Mo looks like he's going back to Monty to work back in the shop while the brothers are still on hot pursuit, and we learn more about their backstory. So yeah, those are the 10 books there. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you so very much. Obviously, Saturday Morning Comic Review is, of course, available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's the wrong button. And you can find everywhere on social media in the description below. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. We'll have the regular Saturday issue. I'm already carving through the books right now. So it may be a backlog-heavy book. It just depends if I'm able to get to the shop. Really, Thursday is going to be kind of the game changer, but I'm already 3 in, which is nice. So only 7 more to go, so that'll be good. I was thinking, like, ooh, should I test myself and do another Omega? But I was like, nah. I've been playing through Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred a lot, and man, I've been loving that game. And then we also have Battlefield 6 that I've been playing a whole bunch of as well. So I was like, no, it just allows more time to catch up on that stuff, which would be cool. But yeah, we'll have the regular Saturday issue, and we'll just kind of keep going from there. So thank you so very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.